Welcome to Let's Talk Elevators, where we hear from voices within the vertical transportation industry. I'm your host, Morgan Jones, and this show is sponsored by Hyperion Solutions, whose focus is to provide tailored solutions that elevate the customer experience. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Elevators, where we discuss the people, the engineering, and the innovations behind an industry that's keeping the world in motion. Today, we're going to talk about something that every passenger experiences, but that we don't talk about a whole lot, and that's designing the ride. So today, we have two industry experts here with me. That's Hannah and Darren from AVT Beckett. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. And I don't know about experts, but we'll stay with that.
Well, I would love to hear origin story. So Darren, let's start with you. Tell us how you came to be an elevator guy.
Well, I had a family that was in it for many years. My brother's in it. My uncles are in it. I've been doing it for a long time. I started elevators when I was actually 14 as a little helper installing handicap lifts. And through that, my first real job was I was a mechanic for Otis. I was one of the youngest mechanical adjusters. I was a mechanical adjuster for Otis when I was 19 years old.
Wow.
About 5 years later, we decided to start our own company. So we started a company installing elevators. So we decided to start manufacturing. 14 or 15 years later, that's where we sit now. And so I like the manufacturing just as much as I like the elevators. It was a nice change in life, kind of that mid-crisis thing, early 40s. And I got to do something within the trade, but different within the trade. So that was fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
And Hannah, how did you come to be?
So I also had a family in elevators. My grandfather was in it. My father was in it. And then I decided to jump in, do 1 year of university and decided that wasn't for me and just got to working in the elevator industry. Started fixtures, did a couple years in the field as a mechanic apprentice, controllers, cabs. And then I landed at AVT about 8 years ago and was able to bring that knowledge together to do like the full packages that we're doing now with them. It's been
Yeah, that's a fun fact. I didn't know that you were a mechanic apprentice, Hannah.
Yep.
yeah,
Interesting.
it was super interesting and a great way to learn, just being hands-on and seeing it firsthand.
Sure.
Fun fact about Hannah. So when I need to discuss elevators within our company at AVT, I discuss them with Hannah. So we're the only two that really have field experience and really kind of get that whole understanding of what you got to go through to do any aspect of the job, because we both lived the dream a few times.
Right.
And another fun, I met Hannah's dad before I met Hannah.
Yeah. And my dad met your dad before
That's
anyone
true.
met anyone.
So small world. It's a small industry.
Yeah.
It sure is. I love that. Well, I'm glad to have you both. And let's just start broad. So, Darren, when we talk about passenger experience, what does that mean to you?
So it really depends on how you look at it. Passenger experience is how far and how fast can you get people from one place to another.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main thing, is as a passenger thing, if you're looking on the building owner side, it's getting people from point A to point B as fast as possible is the real cause and effect.
That's a really insightful answer that I'm not sure I would have even thought of, that you're trying to create a space that is safe and inviting for a passenger, but to get them to A and B as quick as possible so that they're not bored to a place where they're starting to do things maybe they shouldn't. That's an interesting point.
So, I've heard people complain that the elevator's isn't coming fast enough, or they're waited too long, and they'll sit there and press the button 2 or 3 times or 4, 5, 6 times. The elevator doesn't come faster, but it's just proof in the pudding that, as long as they're sitting there idle, there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to get them out of whatever lobby, whatever place they're in, and get them out of the building or up to their condo or their apartment or their office.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting. And, we talk about times. Some lobby dwell times are only like 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Or door open timing is at 2 seconds. Not a lot of time, but people still find ways to make it feel like it's long.
I believe that.
And I guess if you're having a bad day, maybe it seems long.
How do you guys approach designing an elevator that feels both safe and welcoming to the rider?
So I think a lot of it is starting in the lobby and sort of the vibe and the feel that you're getting for the lobby. You want to have, the entrances that have nice finishes that sort of complement the lobby. And then as you're getting into the elevator, for that sort of feel and that vibe to fall into the elevator and for your interiors to match. Getting into the elevator, you want doors that are opening smoothly and quietly. So you want to make sure, you have your door operator set up well, and the fixtures as well play a big part too. I find, there's a big thing if you have, those old school buttons that look like mushroom style buttons versus like a nice stainless steel trestle. That makes a big difference too, I find. So just having something that's nice to look at and that just makes people feel a little bit safer, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a continuous flow. And you're right, as soon as you walk in the front door until you get out of the elevator. And that continuous flow is really a key factor for all buildings, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about how just perception as a rider, you walk into an elevator that's older or not less modern, may be a way to say it, and how that just kind of like puts you at an unease feeling like you're riding something old.
Yeah.
And just having something more modern in your surroundings and what a difference that makes, I guess, in your mentality as a rider.
I think if you think about, along as what you just said and put Hannah's words in there too, then you think what people actually know about an elevator, which is nothing. It's a magic box that somehow just got you from point A to B. And most of the time, they don't even realize the door opened or closed. The only thing they know is they pressed a button on the outside and the inside, and there's a magic box that all of a sudden got them to go to the right spot that they are. And most people have no clue what goes inside the elevator or outside the elevator to make them get to that spot.
Yeah. And I think that if there's nothing wrong, they don't think twice about it. They just are getting in and out. And if there is something wrong, if it's a little bit shaky, it's heightened.
Yeah.
Have any of you guys ever been stuck in an elevator?
Luckily, no, not once. But I know it happens.
Yeah. So I've never been stuck either. I've rescued a lot of people over the years through different reasons, blackouts, this, that, the other thing, and nobody thinks that's a good experience. So your elevator could be beautiful inside or ugly at that point. Everybody's mad, angry, and scared.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think on the flip side makes people step off of an elevator and think that was a good ride? What do you think contributes to a positive rider experience?
I think like we were talking about, like the finishes. If you have nice finishes in there, they have the TV screens now, so something in there that people can watch, the news is going, the weather's going, there's advertisements or something that just sort of keeps their mind off of it. And I think maybe the most positive experience, like not thinking that you've just been in an elevator for the last 30 seconds. And it's not a lot of time that you're spending in there. But yeah, if you just get off and it's just part of your day and you don't have to think twice about it, I think that's a positive.
Yeah, I think that's the compliment that is if you notice nothing and you got on and you got off and you just kept working and you're having conversation with your kid or your partner or whomever that is, and you didn't really notice anything about that, I think that's when you won. So you can have really beautiful things, but you get used to that if you live in the building. If you're comfortable in that comfort rocks right on the elevator and off and you didn't notice anything to do with it, then I think that's when you win.
Right.
If that makes sense.
It does. It does. And I think, that leads me to think about noise and vibrations and negative factors or detractors to somebody's experience and how we address those things or compensate for those things in the design side for you guys. What kind of things do you guys do from a design perspective to try and overcome, mechanical challenges or even electrical for that matter that would factor in?
So I think, for starting at the very basics and sort of the core of it is, making sure that your rail installation is good. That's, the whole thing that the system is riding on. You want to make sure that that's all plumb. You want to make sure that that you have appropriately sized roller guides for the application, because that'll make a big difference when, like we touched on with making them feel safe and welcoming with the door operation. You want to make sure your door operator is set up so you don't have doors that are flying open and slamming closed and things like that. Proper isolation is a big factor as well, and for the vibrations. And yeah,
I think on the flip side of that, if we take the mechanics job in mind, is setting up good hoistways, pickup rollers versus locks and clutches. And, I've gone in buildings that I've heard the clutch actually hit every pickup roller all the way up. And then, you get lucky that time we didn't get a high-speed stop. You will do it again, and all of a sudden you're, 350 foot a minute coming to a halt. So I think there's some things to be saying about proper maintenance. So if you do all the things Hannah said and you get a good installation, and that installation's maintained well, because a roller guide can get a flat spot and you'll now get this hump going over all the time and you'll feel it. The faster you go, the more you feel it. So maintenance wise is to know that, you got to change the roller guide or, just so proper adjustment, proper maintenance is a key factor also to keep that good and make the rider experience that much better.
What do you guys feel like the industry is asking of people like you guys from a supplier perspective? And is it realistic? Is it reasonable?
So I'm going to jump on this. So I love this part of the industry because more and more and more we get asked to do crazy things. So, we can put a cab in and an interior in and sell one for $2 or $3 grand. We've done up to $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 cabs. We've done some pretty amazing stuff with interiors. And I think that's a thing that keeps driving us, and it's exciting all the time to see how we're going to do that, build that, make weight work and all the different variables that go with that. Because we don't have a ton of changes in our trade. A lot of stuff that we still do in our trade has got a bit of a dinosaur moment to it. And then some is pretty advanced. I think some of the design changes, whether you're making cabs out of aluminum and putting crazy weights of glass and mirror and lighting, that is all done. I think that's super exciting. They have different things for flooring now. You can put a monitor in the floor and you think the floor's falling out. If you can watch TV in an elevator now and watch the news channel and find out what's going on, you can do all sorts of things. And so as for fun on kind of a design side of what you can do within, call it for a 5x5 box, 6x5 box, whatever it is pretty cool. We've done some outrageous things, and I think that excites our company and our team. You can do all standards. And again, we have so many standards in our trade. Geared machines of geared machine, it's been that way for all geared machine life. It changes a little bit. PM gearless is probably the biggest difference in a long time for us, and that's old now. And so, to see some of these things that are coming out, touchscreens, different variables, is pretty cool stuff.
And I think from like a design like this system perspective, everyone just wants smaller. They want a smaller footprint everywhere so they can maximize retail space or that kind of thing in the building. So that's also really fun to design things and to sit there and go over how can we crush this space or how can we do this a little bit different to accommodate this. And so it's nice that you're always able to innovate, and I think that's the elevator industry is really good for that too.
To just add on to what Hannah said, we try to crush space every day, every single day of our life. We're like, oh, there's an inch, there's 3/4 of an inch. And then we reflect that back into the product. We've done a whole new cab design that we've never had since our conception at AVT, and it's part of our standards now. And it's nothing like the way we mount it, the way we do it is nothing like we've ever done before. But it gained us almost 3 inches of space. And,
That's
3 inches in
incredible.
our world, you think an elevator, 3 inches, who cares? But 3 inches in the world, as Hannah said, is massive now.
Yeah.
It's massive.
And I love that you guys are taking those challenges and creating innovation out of it. You're problem solving and pushing the envelope of what the norm is, trying to do something new, different, exciting, smaller, whatever the case.
I think the exciting part for me as one of the owners there is that our team looks forward to that. They want that. It just, that rubber stamping projects is one thing. And then, our engineering team and staff who are still, most of them are pretty young, and we wanted, and we built that team around that so that we had, still people who like to play Xbox.
Right.
We put it to reality. And so when we push their buttons, they're like, yeah, let's go.
I love
So
that.
Hannah and I's whiteboard is like a chalkboard, or we'd, build a box in PowerPoint. And then we say, hey, you guys, what do you think? And then they have to go do their thing. And then lots of times it's totally the opposite. They come up with their stuff and say, hey, what do you think? So our equivalent, how we get there 2 different ways. We got a little old school and they're just fun.
I love that. I love that kind of behind the scenes peek at how you guys make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about accessibility and how that factors into design. What kind of things do you guys have to keep in mind or comply with?
So Appendix E in in the code is all about accessibility. So things like having braille tags, chimes, voice enunciators for people who are visually impaired, the height of the buttons, where those are located, to make sure everyone can reach them. In the 2019 code that some places have adopted, they have two-way video now for the hearing impaired so that they can communicate with people inside the cab if the car were to be stuck or something like that. So I think that there's a lot to do with the fixtures in that sense, because that's what people are interacting with the most. And I think that they're always going to become like this thing. I hadn't even thought of it. It wasn't even a thought, this new two-way video thing, but I think that they're always going to come up with new things to be more accessible for everybody.
Even the yes no buttons in the two-way video to be able to press I'm here, whatever, and I think that's pretty good. I think everything you said there is totally correct and good.
Yeah, I think such, again, a great innovation in our industry as a whole with that two-way communication is giving those emergency situations better insight. You have somebody who's fallen ill in a cab and can't reach a button, can't do something, but you can visually see that there is a person that needs help and do something about it, where before we wouldn't have had that kind of insight.
For sure.
How do things like speed impact the rider experience? As I feel like in North America, it's always go big, have a huge machine, have it go a million miles a minute. How does that type of factor impact the rider experience?
You want to go the first half, Hannah?
Sure. I think everyone wants to go faster, get from A to B as quick as possible. But I think that there's a lot more to it. It's not just the speed of the elevator. It's, making sure that you have an appropriate amount of elevators for your traffic, that the size of the elevators are appropriate for, the height of the building, having, we see a lot of high rise that have a low rise, mid rise, high rise bank of elevators, so that you're not stopping every 2 floors or whatever, getting to your destination, because it doesn't matter if you have a 1,400 foot a minute car. If you're not ever going to reach the speed, then it doesn't matter that you have a 1,400 foot a minute car, kind of thing.
Yeah, I would agree with 100%. I think the number one key factor, my whole career, until about maybe 8 or 10 years ago, we would see condos, 50-story condos with 3 elevators. And no matter what you did, I can see rush hour lobbies full. And it doesn't matter what the speed is, or what the capacity is. You have a lobby full of people because you don't have enough space to move all those people. And more lately, over the last bunch of years, we've seen, 5-car banks, 3 and 2, or 5 in a row. We've done lots of, 4 and a 1, just different variations of that. And I think the key factor of that is when you have that and you can get people in an elevator and they're not congested hitting every floor. And it goes back to what Hannah said, you can get up to speed. If the only time you can go 1,400 foot a minute is when you get in at the bottom and you're on the top floor penthouse and hope that nobody's going to get in the elevator.
Right.
But if you stop at the lobby and 3 floors, you never even got up to 1,400 foot a minute. Mm-hmm. So I really do believe the biggest thing is, as times have changed, and that you got to elevate your building properly and correctly with how many is number one.
And that's a conversation that you guys just have to have with the building owner to try and set expectations or talk about, like, here's the trade-off if you
So we typically never get a chance to do that. The good consultants are doing it and realizing the different things. So definitely good consultants. If an elevator company kind of says it sounds like they're upselling. But, they're probably doing the right thing by you and for you. Right. But it doesn't necessarily, because they're going to cost you another $500,000, $1 million, whatever that number is. And that. So it really comes down to the consultants in the building writing and knowing how many people are going to live there. How many condos are there? What's the expectation within a condo, right? And then you do all the mathematics to that. That's going to give you how many people a day that you're moving on average. And then you're going to know how many elevators and what speed to go. But I think the way it was done before, it was kind of just, well, a triplex is good. Let's do that. And I'm not trying to badmouth anybody or anything, but most of my career in Toronto were triplexes until not too long ago. And office tower being different.
Yeah, office for sure. I think too, like things like destination dispatch have played a good role in that for places where people are going. So in condos or in office buildings, when they know how to use the system, that's a great way to use the elevators efficiently. People know which elevator to get in. They're sort of grouped together. So it's serving the least amount of floors that it has to. So people, again, are getting from A to B as quick as possible.
Yeah, have any of you been in a building and walked in the lobby and saw a lineup, literally a lineup?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so that's ridiculous, right? Really, then you want to talk, how do you ruin an experience? That's it right there.
Yeah.
And how does your lobby get dirty and messy and vandalized? It's right there because those elevators couldn't move people fast enough.
Or then you have them packing in like sardines into the elevator, and people are riding up to the floor like this, and it takes them 5 minutes to get to their floor because they're stopping at everyone.
Yeah.
What are some of the design elements, again, just on rider experience, that help with the anxiety factor or the claustrophobia?
So I think some things that you can do for that, mirrors is a really simple one to incorporate into a cab design, because it gives a feeling like the elevator is larger than it is, where it's appropriate to have atrium type cars where you have glass enclosures that you could see out, having those, the infotainment screens that we talked about earlier, where you have the news or the weather going, or something that someone can watch and take their mind off of things, are all good things to have if that's something that you want to avoid.
And what about music? I feel like that's not a thing anymore. Like it used to be, and that was something that would occupy your mind or like set the tone, and you just don't hear it anymore.
I don't know the last time I've heard music in an elevator.
But
Yeah, me
why?
neither.
I have
Where do
no
they
idea.
go?
I guess maybe they're not playing that heavy rock and roll that I like.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time. And the other thing, for that is warmth. If
Interesting.
you have some anxiety type thing, and just being warmth and that comfortable, kind of goes back to the first question. It's nice and warm. The colors, lighting, everything, right? Comfortable.
Mhm.
And that whole comfort coming into the elevator, the doors working nice. You're not having to be a little jittery because you just heard a squeak, a bang, or whatever. And I think that's the other part that adds to that part of the question
Perception.
too.
Yeah. What about on the luxury side of things? What are some of the stuff that's out there that you guys can offer that's special or unique?
Well, you may as well go first, Hannah. I can name 100.
Yeah. So, like we touched on earlier, Darren was talking about like the crazy things that we've seen in cab designs. One in particular that we did a few years ago was a photographer went around and took pictures of these cities that these buildings were in, and blew up the pictures and put it on laminated glass and lit up the whole picture behind, and
Wow.
that was the whole lighting for the cab. So those were really cool. Fancy veneers. I've seen things being imported from like Brazil, and I've heard of people go to pick out the tree that they want, and that kind of stuff is incorporated into their lobby and cab design. And yeah, truly like the sky's the limit for those kinds of things nowadays. There's always a way to make it fire resistant, or to do this, sandwich it in glass or something like that.
I think the glass market's really helped our industry over the last bunch of years. Before, it was always just mirrors. Mirror, 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 mirror. And then, whatever, it's just boring. And so then over the last 10 years, especially for us, glass has become so huge and we've done so much with it. And it really does change. The wall that, with the photographs Hannah was talking about, that wall was 450 pounds. And, that was 2 giant pieces laminated, and it was just spectacular. And there was enough glow, like she said, to light up the whole elevator. So we had no downlights. It was just a soft, beautiful glow that came out, and it came from behind. And so I think another one, luxury in elevators, is ceilings. Some of the stuff that we've done in ceilings, we've done cove ceilings that have, like a Chinese dragon in it. And I were talking the other day about another one that had broken glasses, a piece of glass shards, literally hand placed and then kind of put together. That was, you're talking a ceiling that's now worth probably 10 grand.
Wow.
And the Chinese dragon, we do a lot of stuff etched. So that same building that we did the dragon, we etched all the mirror on the back wall for the company logo. And so it was just spectacular. And then right now, metal. There's a lot of nice metals, so I mean, you can buy some pretty funky metals that are out there. It's expensive, but you can do a lot with that. And with the machinery companies like ourselves and other companies like us, bending metal and making metal work is pretty simple these days. And so yeah, there's just a ton. And I think luxury is as much as, or whatever the ID person decides that
Yeah.
it's going to be.
Yeah.
You ask us to build it, I guarantee you we're going to do it. So I think luxury just has no end to it. Brass is another one coming back,
Really?
but now we have a stainless steel brass. So it doesn't have the same qualities of turning green and, having to be worried or be lacquered or anything. It's pretty robust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then thinking on the flip side of luxury, when you have to design for maybe it's a housing unit or some really high traffic, very busy situation, people are maybe not going to take the best care of it or be a professional writer. What kind of things are you having to take into account when you're designing for those type of installations?
So I'm going to say that's real simple. And it's kind of, I'm going to guess, more so a North American standard. We've done a lot of jail elevators now. We've done a lot of housing elevators. Most of the time, you're going to run full panel Rigitex on the panels and on the door skins. It's hard to beat up and make look horrible. Yeah, it's probably the number one thing that we're seeing as anti-vandalism. I think it's 5WL Rigitex is probably the most that we see when out there.
Yeah. And we make like you can make a shell wall completely so there's no panels to pick at. There's nothing to damage. The shell wall itself is made out of that WL material.
Interesting.
So you can't vandalize those things.
Other things that we've done too is like within elevators, you can't see. I don't know if you remember, and if you can think back riding your elevators and you see little vertical slots in the bottom and the top of the elevator, air ventilation. We hide all ours. You can't pick at it. You can't stick a pin in it. You can't do anything. You can't see it. So it's another place where people can't go play around in. So especially in, like housing type or prison things, it's just an opportunity that they don't have anymore to try to do something. So ours is always concealed ventilation. So we have it. We have the exact same amount of ventilation that the cab requires. You just can't see it or find it.
Anywhere there's an edge, people like to pick at it.
I
Like we were
believe
talking about
that.
people getting bored and
I believe that.
Yeah.
What kind of technologies do you think are going to change the future of cab design or rider experience as a whole?
I'm going to go on the CAD side and I'll let you do the rider side. And for me, cab side, again, is it's just whatever the next person can think. It's whatever that funky thing is. Our team that does AutoCAD, we 3D model everything and we get to sit there and see it and almost, get to feel it, do whatever. And it's unbelievable. And so if somebody can think it and all that, it's not a problem really to design and build it. So I really think that's the biggest part. I don't think the other one for me would be aluminum. We still have kind of dinosaur things, motorcycles, race cars, passenger trucks. A lot of things are made out of aluminum, but for some reason we still make elevators out of big, heavy steel. And, we lose a green factor that should be there. Our team plays with aluminum every day. We actually have no aluminum in our inside or no wood or steel inside our cab anymore. It's all aluminum.
Got it.
And it's different than anybody could see it. I won't get into the makings of it, but I think as a whole, making that through cabs and figuring out design for that would be a way to go.
I think from like a passenger riding side, I think we saw some advancements pretty recently with COVID, like having touchless buttons and things like that to sort of try to make everything a little healthier for everyone. But I think, Bluetooth might take a role at some point in the future, something that, you walk up to the elevator, it knows who you are, it knows where you're, the floor that you got to go to, and it just kind of does it automatically. I don't think that's a far off concept, knowing, we have fobs that do those kinds of things. You have card readers that kind of do that already. Maybe, LEDs, more efficient lighting, things like that.
Yeah, I think it feels like a lot of the time we're talking about our industry as a whole as being one that just generally lacks innovation, that we've all been doing the same old thing for eons and it hasn't changed much. And I think that is certainly true in a lot of aspects, but you guys have shared a lot today that makes me feel the opposite. Or there's the two-way communication thing that's new and exciting and innovative and brings a lot of good to the elevator world. And then all of the advancements that you guys can do in the rider experience in the cab itself, that all feels big.
Well, for us, it's not
Yeah.
big, it's fun.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, again, with that all being said, there's lots of room for change. And a company like us, being a small company, not a worldwide company by any means, has to strive for that continuously. And I think, again, for that, if you're not striving, you're staying stagnant. And if you're not looking, you're staying stagnant, which means, like, your longevity might not quite be there. So if you build a team around change and want to keep looking at change and not consider it a hassle, but a good thing, then I think you can keep evolving.
Yeah. Do you guys look at what other cultures, other global markets do and think about how to adapt them to our market or what's good, what's bad?
So I'm going to say for us, yes, 100%. We import a lot of stuff. We've gone outside of North America to find different products and different things that are constant everyday things for us. Being able to, I've worked in China for a month in factories. I've been all over lots of different places, seen the difference in elevators. Germany, we were there for the last show, and you were lucky to get a suitcase and 2 bodies in. You know what I mean? All that stuff, seeing some of the different cultural ideals and things are pretty interesting. Some of them are way advanced than we are. MRLs hit Europe before they hit North America.
Yeah.
When I was in the last show of the German fixtures at the show, not just German fixtures, all the fixtures were beautiful, just outrageous. I mean, but we can't get them here. They're not CSA. They're not this, that, the other thing. And not that our fixture suppliers aren't great, but there's some really neat stuff out there that's just in time before we get it.
Yeah, I think we're kind of restricted to code and to safety authorities, things like that, that sort of we can't just do whatever.
Yeah.
Not saying that it's not safe in the rest of the world, but just saying that I think that we're maybe a little bit restricted in that sense.
Yeah, I
in
would
North
say
America.
that they need to look at the code and find a way to bring some or most or all and make it a worldwide. It would totally change our market in North America. Everything would change. How many suppliers we have, how many this, that, the other thing. So yeah, I think looking around the world for things is a smart way to do things.
I think you guys have shared a lot of really great insights about what you do and what goes into the design of an elevator system. If there was one thing you wanted people to take away today, what would that be?
Always keep innovating, just always push for that next thing. I think that's what's so great about this industry is that we're always trying to innovate and do something new. That's what I love about this industry is that nothing is the same. There's always something new to learn, and that's what keeps it exciting. And so, yeah, just keep dream big and make it happen.
And we all kind of push each other in that regard, right? One of us comes out with something new or exciting, and then everybody else has to kind of step up to the plate, or what are we going to do? What are we going to offer? What are we going to change?
Yeah.
For sure.
I just wish it happened a little more, as we go to different elevator shows and you see that, you're not getting a wow factor every time you go to that elevator show.
Yeah.
And it'd be really neat. I mean, you go look at cars and different things and trucks and stuff, other outside industries, they get wows every year.
Yeah.
And we just don't see that this way. And I think the opportunities are there. So yeah, I think there's so many spaces that have room for improvement. And there's definitely a few different markets. You got an independent market who really is one thing, and that's really who we sell to and what our customer base is. And then you have an OEM market, which we also do a lot of work with, but it's only on work that they can't do or they don't deem that it's good for or right for the factory to do. So we'll get chances to do some of their custom work. But I think, yeah, we can do lots for sure.
Well, I loved having you guys. I think it was a great conversation and it was insightful for me. Thank y'all so much.
Well, thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it. It was
thank
fun.
you. Yeah.
Until next time, let's talk elevators. Hi, thanks for listening to this episode of Let's Talk Elevators. If you enjoyed the conversation, subscribe and leave us a review. If you have questions or ideas for a future episode, connect with us at letstalkelevators.com. Until next time, stay safe and keep moving up.